Welcome to another Wednesday meditation. My name is Keith, and I'm a meditation teacher. And we've been doing these Wednesday meditations as sort of like an intro to what meditation is and different types of meditations that we can do. Oh, hi! Oh, people are here. Ed is ready for his inner child to emerge. That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Our itinerary for today is we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about meditation in general for people that are new. We'll do a quick breathing meditation, which is a really good baseline if you're new to meditation. And then we're going to talk about something kind of interesting. We're going to talk about, hi Joan, hey Chris. We're going to talk about the differences in how children and adults interact with the world around them, right? Because there is a difference, right? There's a certain instances that we can look at and we can be like, oh, that's interesting how children are interacting with that object or situation versus an adult, us. Unless there's any children here, I don't know. I don't think so. So there's going to be like three topics we're going to look at. We're going to look at joy, concentration, and wisdom. And we've touched on a couple of these before. And I don't think wisdom, but we'll get into the weeds of these after we do our intro meditation. So if you're new, meditation, first of all, welcome. Meditation is about familiarizing your mind with things, good things, hopefully, like peacefulness, happiness. It's a technique. It's a learning tool to train our mind. And the first step in training our mind through meditation is training in relaxing, essentially relaxing our mind, right? Not like just like vegging out and like falling asleep like this, but like just having like a peaceful mind, not anxious, things like that. So this is the first step, because without relaxing our mind, it becomes difficult for us to like think about things clearly. And you don't need me to tell you this. Like, you experience this all day, every day. If you're anxious, panicked, upset, like you're just not thinking as clearly as you would normally. I always use the example of, if there's raindrops falling into a still lake, you can't see the reflection, right? But if you remove the raindrops, now the reflection is really clear. And that's like our mind. Our mind is normally very clear, very peaceful, very calm, happy. But the like bombardment of distractions, these raindrops that are happening throughout the day, are making it difficult for us to see that and tap into that. So that's what we're going to do with a breathing meditation. It's called single-pointed concentration, the technique. And all that means is focusing on one thing, right? We're not multitasking, right? In this instance, multitasking is not great, all right? Multitasking is not great for being peaceful. It's great for accomplishing multiple tasks, but that's about it. So we're going to focus single-pointedly on our breath, so much so, hopefully, that the other thoughts that are kind of bouncing around in our head uncontrolled are just going to kind of fade to the background a little bit. Sort of like if you've ever been in the zone at work or exercising. This happens a lot. You know, if you're running, you just kind of like lose track of time. You don't feel the pains in your knees. I'm speaking from experience of pains in my knees. It's sort of a similar experience, right? The distractions around you aren't as distracting when you're hyper focused on one thing. So we're going to like hyper focus on our breath. We're going to intentionally do this. Sometimes this happens unintentionally, but we're going to intentionally do this, right? And we're going to use our breath ultimately because it's so easy to identify. It's with us all the time. And if we get good at using our breath to relax, well, great. You always have your breath with you. You can always use your breathing to relax yourself a little bit, right? Whereas if we did it with something else that you don't always have, well, then now you think you need this thing. So we're going to use our breath. That's why it's traditionally taught that way. And it's also, it's using the breath is important too, because it makes us realize we don't need special circumstances to do this. Like, you don't need a special room to be in that's perfectly quiet or whatever. You're fine. Whatever you have right now is good. You have everything you need to meditate and to see the benefits of meditation. So congratulations. So we're going to do that now. And if you've never done this before, just follow along with what I'm saying. We're going to focus on our breathing. And then when you realize that you're not focusing on your breathing, your attention has moved off to like whatever other tasks you have coming up or things that happened earlier, just bring your attention back, right? So focus, bring your attention back. That is the first part of meditation, training in focusing on our breath. Okay? So let's do that now. And then we'll have a fun discussion. Okay? So if you're, wherever you are is fine. Like I said, if you're sitting, standing, laying, whatever it is, it's good. You don't have to change. Just be comfortable. Okay? And we're going to close our eyes. And whenever we start a meditation, it's good to check in with ourselves. How are you feeling right now? Are you happy, sad, excited, tired? Whatever it is, just notice it. We are practicing mindfulness, noticing what our mind is doing moment to moment. We don't often check in with ourselves, so check in. How are you feeling? Having checked in with ourselves, we can turn our full attention to our breathing. Right now, I want you to really concentrate on your exhale through your nose. Every time you breathe out, imagine you're breathing out all of the stress of today, any worries you have of upcoming events or responsibilities. Just imagine yourself breathing it out with each exhale. If it's helpful, you can think of this as breathing out a dark smoke. Sometimes a visualization can help. So every time you exhale, imagine you're breathing out dark smoke. You're breathing out all of your stress, your to-do list. Just imagine it. And if you find your mind is having trouble staying on focusing on your exhale, that's okay. When you notice that your mind has drifted, just gently guide it back. Guide your attention back to focusing on breathing out dark smoke, to enjoying breathing, enjoying relaxing with your breath. And now we can add in a focus on our inhale, our in-breath. Every time you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in sunlight, warmth, joy, happiness. I like to think of it as like a warm sunlight. Just imagine yourself breathing that in and then breathing out the dark smoke. We're breathing in peacefulness, calmness, joy, relaxation, and we're breathing out our stress. Just imagine it. Just focus on that. Keep bringing your attention back to breathing in the white light and breathing out the dark smoke. Allow yourself to relax. Keep bringing your attention back to breathing in and breathing out as many times as necessary. This is meditation. You are meditating. You are training your mind to relax. How wonderful. How wonderful that you can do this all on your own, just with your breath. So just breathe in and out for maybe another 5 seconds or so. Okay, when you're ready, you can open up your eyes and relax. This episode brought to you by Bubbly. It's my favorite seltzer. How was that? So that's a pretty, this has a lot of different names, that particular breathing meditation, light and dark meditation. I try to mix it up a little bit here because some people really identify with visualizations and others don't. So if that connected with you, great. If not, there's a lot of other ones that we do. But essentially, the idea is to realize that you can remove some of those raindrops on the lake. You can remove some of the stress that's going on in your mind, even just a little bit. And if you can do it a little bit and you can recognize, hey, I did that a little bit, well, the next time you can do it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until you get actually quite good at relaxing by using nothing other than your breath, right? What's better than that? You don't need anything else to chill out. It's great. So does anyone have any questions on breathing meditation? I know I kind of flew through it a little bit. We have a little bit to get to today, so that's why. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, that's okay. No pressure. And we're going to get on to, as Ed said, having our inner child emerge, right? So when we think about a child, like at play, we're going to think about like a child playing joyfully, right? Well, I kind of spoiled it right there. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Joy, right? Like, they're so happy. They're so like joyful, right? Kind of, even in activities that we might not find to be particularly interesting, right? So joy is a really important thing for us in terms of being happy, right? Which you think like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, if I'm joyful, I'm happy. But the reason is because joy produces natural effort. If we find something to be joyful, we naturally want to do it, right? And so if that thing is making us happy, we'll naturally want to do it more and to do it more. So we can use this to motivate ourselves to do some really great work inside to become more peaceful and more joyful, more like a child at play, just enjoying ourselves, right? So we might think to ourselves, okay, well, how do I force myself to enjoy an activity? And well, you can't. But we have to kind of rethink of what of like where our joy is coming from, I think is the way to do it, right? We need to start to realize that the attitude that we bring to an activity, the level of interest, our mind state, is a massive influence on if we are going to enjoy that activity, that thing, or not. Normally, we don't think that way. We think that this activity is fun, and so if I do it, I will have fun. We don't really think that I need to like be calm and be peaceful to enjoy this activity, right? We'll talk a little bit more about this. But joy is kind of our goal. That's kind of our goal in this discussion and the meditation we'll do after it. We want to try to enhance our level of joy, like a child at play. So like if having a peaceful mind is really the catalyst for joy, then how do we get a peaceful mind? Ultimately, distractions block our joy, which might seem That might be like a weird thing to hear. But like if we are distracted, if our mind is not engaged in an activity fully, then we're not going to be able to identify any of the subtle joys that might be there, right? If we're thinking about, I don't know, something upsetting that happened while we're watching a show, we're not even going to be really watching the show. Like we're going to be off somewhere else, and we're not going to be like enjoying the show to its full capacity, right? So distractions and managing them are a really huge part of happiness. And really the kind of opposite of being distracted is like having concentration, mindfulness, being very present, right? And children are very, very present. It's very interesting. So this all kind of came about when we were having a sort of like a family gathering. We were at like a restaurant, big family gathering, and our cousin was there. I think she was like 2 at the time, Aubrey. So cute. And I remember seeing her like playing with this napkin. It's like a cloth napkin. And she was like totally into this napkin, unbelievably so, right? And like Aubrey is the first grandchild, so she's quite popular. Everyone's trying to vie for her attention, right? But like people be like, "Hey Aubrey, look over here, look over here, look over here." Didn't even look. Just totally into this napkin, right? It's a hat, it's a ball, it's on my arm, it's in my mouth, like it is all these things. Like she's like totally exploring the napkin. And sometimes, right, somebody would be quite persistent in trying to get her attention, and she would acknowledge them, right? So they'd be like, "Oh, Aubrey, over here." And she'd look, right? But then she'd be like, I'm going back to the napkin. Not right now, like she's obviously not saying that too. But like the attention is like, oh yeah, she's acknowledging that you're saying something, but then I'm going back. And I thought to myself, wow, what a really great example of how we're supposed to meditate, right? We just did that. We're focusing on our breath, right? Just like she's focusing on the napkin. And when, Uncle Frank says something to us, we're like, not right now, Uncle Frank. We're going to go back to focusing on this, and then I'll get back to you later. We're not saying no, Uncle Frank, never. We're saying not right now, right? It's a really good lesson in meditating, and it's also a good lesson in anything that we do, right? To find the subtle joys, to really be plugged into what we're doing and not be constantly pulled by Uncle Frank's, so to speak, right? So like we have to think about too, like, why are we so distracted? Like, why is it that, Aubrey can kind of be plugged into this napkin or whatever, and then we'd be all over the place, right? Why are we so distracted? And ultimately it's because adults are extremely preoccupied with the past and the future. Almost all of our thoughts are based in the past or in the future. Like, how often have you thought about something somebody said to you that was upsetting, or a regret that you had, or, something that happened years ago? Like, all the time, right? It's constantly popping up in our head all the time, right? Same with the future. How often have you thought about what you have to do later, your to-do list, things that, an event you have to go to, like all the time throughout the course of your day? The vast majority of your thoughts are based in the past and the future. And our mind can't be in two places at once, right? So if it's in the past or if it's in the future, where is it not? It's not in the present moment, is not fully enjoying the present, right? Whereas Aubrey, very plugged into the present moment of this napkin, right? And when we're present, we're living in reality, which is kind of an interesting way to think about it, because the past is gone. It only exists in our mind. The future hasn't happened yet. It only exists in our mind until it happens. And so like the real reality is the present moment. And so if we're not focusing on it, well, then we're going to miss out on some of the joys of the present moment, right? So this is concentration, really. And it's interesting because we don't usually associate concentration with happiness. In fact, we associate it with like stress, oh, I got to concentrate. But really, if we're concentrating properly, we'll find joy in the thing we're concentrating on. It'll be easier for us to notice things, right? Just like we might notice things about our breathing that we hadn't noticed. Like, sometimes we talk about the cool air on our nostrils when we breathe in. I never thought about that until I started meditating, and like how the air is warmer when I come out. Well, I never thought about it. So concentration really does lead to enjoyment, which is a really important thing. And it's something cool that we can learn from kids, right? Like we often like say like, oh, a kid, they're not realistic. Isn't that interesting? Right? But like maybe they're the most realistic. Like they're the most realistic we've ever been is when we were a kid, totally living in the present moment, right? So if our goal is joy, our method is concentration, right? But we're adults and we might need a little convincing. So we're going to kind of look at a third thing, wisdom. And wisdom is a lot of different definitions around. The coolest one that I have heard, and one that has really rang true with me, is wisdom is knowing the difference between the way things are and the way they appear to be. Aside from like sounding really cool, I think that definition sounds really cool. It's really interesting to think about. And we're going to think about it right now, right? This is actually a massive topic in meditation for the pursuit of happiness. So we'll do probably a number of classes on this idea of wisdom and the way things are versus the way they appear to be. But we'll get a little taste of it now. Right now, happiness appears to be out there, right? Very cool. I love that. Yeah, it's really cool definition. It's a really cool phrase of it, way to describe it. So right now, it appears that our happiness is out there, right? If I can only get the new job, then I'll be happy. And we work really hard and we do everything we need to do to get the job, and then we get the job and we're happy for a little while. And then what happens? Well, we find something else that we definitely need to get to be happy. Sometimes it's like getting another job, right? The job that was supposed to bring us this ultimate happiness now is the cause of our pain, right? So it's not like a true source of happiness. That's a common phrase in meditation. So like we do this for our whole lives. So if you think about your life and all the things that you're trying to get to be happy, the vast majority of them are probably an external thing, right? So we have to think to ourselves, are we looking in the right place? Because we've been doing this for quite some time and we haven't reached this like ultimate happiness that we're looking for, right? We're still looking, we're still grasping at some of these things to bring us the joy that we seek. So like, are we looking in the right spot? Are there any other spots to look, right? So think about Aubrey again. Let's go back to that, right? So like I was saying before, when I was watching her play with this napkin, like I can't accurately describe the like amazing number of ways that she was using this napkin in like a creative way, like hat, cape. I saw her throw it up in the air like a parachute, stepping on it. Like there was no part of this napkin left unexplored by her, right? Like totally into it, man. And I remember watching and saying to myself, that's cute how Aubrey thinks the napkin is so fun. And at the time it didn't, I just kind of moved on. But looking back, it's such an interesting thing to say because what I'm doing is I'm implying that she's wrong. I'm implying that the napkin is not fun and that Aubrey is like, just doesn't understand that. She doesn't understand that it's not fun. It's cute that she thinks it's fun, right? But is the napkin fun or is it dull, right? So there's two humans here, right? Like me and Aubrey, we're both looking at the same object. We're both looking at the same napkin. There's not like a fun napkin and a dull napkin. We're looking at the same napkin. But to Aubrey, super fun. The most fun thing ever. To me, like, so dull. Like if you gave me a napkin and like, have fun with this, I'd be like, no, I want something else. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? This is a napkin. Okay. Right. So two completely different experiences of the same object. Now, if the napkin was inherently fun, well, then I would view it as fun, no problem. If it was inherently dull, well, then there's no way Aubrey could enjoy it, right? So there's got to be something else at play. The external object, the napkin, can't be the ultimate deciding factor of like enjoyable or dull, because two people are experiencing it in very different ways. So what we start to see here is that the mind, the person interacting with the object, is really what determines the quality of your experience with that object. Aubrey is bringing a mind of fascination, of interest to this napkin, and thus she is very concentrated on it and noticing some of the joys of it, the way that it feels. Oh my God, it floats up in the air. Now me, if I were to look at the napkin, I'm bringing a mind of dullness, lack of interest, lack of fascination to the napkin. And so I immediately am going to welcome distractions, right? It's a very interesting thing. This is wisdom, okay? The way things appear to be versus the way they are. Then it appears that the napkin is either exciting or dull. The way things are is that it's the mind that makes the napkin exciting or dull, right? That is something that is really important for us to start to think about, if we think that's true, and experiment, play with the idea of it. And we can use this logic for a vast number of things. Maybe the napkin's a little funny, but it's true. Like the napkin is just a napkin. The napkin isn't exciting or dull. The dullness comes from us. A choice we have to make all the time. Yeah, absolutely. How about finding some interest or joy when doing something that we really don't want to be doing? Can that be beneficial? Well, yeah, like when we don't want to do something, okay? So, for example, I have confessed my love of video games here before. And so I find all sorts of ways to play video games all the time, like natural effort, right? Joy equals natural effort to playing games. I hate doing laundry. Hate it. Okay? So I never want to do it. And then when I'm doing it, I'm constantly thinking about not doing it. I would rather not be doing this. I'm never thinking about laundry or like how the way things feel. So like I have zero concentration on what I'm doing. I'm not being like Aubrey. So if we can start to try to apply our breathing meditation techniques to activities we might not normally enjoy, like focus on it, and when we notice our mind is drifting to something else, bring attention back, we might notice some enjoyment in that thing that we haven't noticed before. Concentration, eliminating distractions, opens us up to see things differently. I saw Aubrey last week. So this napkin analogy is awesome. Our minds are so powerful. I wish we could learn more about this in school. Yeah, this is we don't learn about this. Nobody ever teaches you about this. In fact, they teach you the opposite. They teach you that it's out there, man. You got to go out there, and that's where your happiness is. They don't ever teach you there might be something else at play. All right? Like brushing your teeth. Yeah. So we did that experiment, right? Like we did an experiment a while back where we took an activity that was very neutral, right? I used the example of brushing your teeth because that's just what I use, right? And instead of just like mindlessly brushing our teeth while we think about something else, really think about brushing our teeth. How do the bristles feel on my teeth? Like, oh my God, like look at this, listen to the sounds. Like, we can really plug into it, and then we start to notice these things that we've never noticed before. Just like Aubrey is noticing things about the napkin that we do not notice. Well, we are completely oblivious to that. And this is one of the downsides of growing up. We lose our fascination with things. We lose the wisdom of knowing that we can find enjoyment and fascination in anything. We completely lose that when we grow up. Kids have that. Kids are totally present. They have more wisdom than us. We don't like to think that, but ultimately they do, right? They're an open book. Everything is possible for them because they're not really consciously maybe noticing that it's my mind doing this, but they're not discouraging that. They're open to the possibilities of it. Maybe do your laundry in Civilization 6. Yeah, and like VR, play a video game doing laundry. I've actually played some like Office VR stuff. It's very surreal. So does that make sense? Does that make sense? I know the wisdom thing especially can be a little confusing. It's like it's new. We don't normally think this way. So if it's confusing, good, actually. Like if you're like, that's good because now you're thinking about it. You never thought about it before. Okay. So just think about that. I often do an example with my wife and me. She loves olives. I hate olives, right? If there's a plate of olives in front of us at an Italian restaurant, I'm like, oh God, I can't even stand the smell. She loves them. Well, are the olives bad or good? It depends on the person. It depends on like us. It depends on the mind we're bringing to this. Like I have labeled olives as terrible, and so they're terrible. That's it. Right? So we can start to play with this a little bit. We can start to think about how objects, situations are more flexible than we think. That's a key word, flexibility. There is flexibility. We can enjoy things that we might not think we enjoy. Okay? That's a lot of talking. Hopefully that you found that interesting. We're going to do a little meditation now. And I'll try to incorporate these three things: joy, concentration, wisdom. And we're going to kind of look for the joy in our breath. All right. We're going to do basically a breathing meditation and then investigate it a little bit. That's like the second part of meditation. We relax our mind, then we use our relaxed mind to investigate something. Okay. So let's do that now. All right. So get back to your relaxed, comfy position and close your eyes. This time, let's check in with ourselves again. How are you feeling now? Different than before? The same? Whatever it is, we're just noticing it. Just notice. And we can also make a promise to ourselves. We can generate a wish to engage in this 10-minute meditation like a child at play. Let's bring fascination and interest into this meditation just for 10 minutes, and then we can go back to our normal lives. So just make a promise to yourself to do that. And then let's turn our attention to our breathing once again for a little while. Breathe in and breathe out very naturally, very gently through our nose. We don't need to take deep breaths. We don't need to change anything. Just breathe. Maybe, just maybe, you might notice some things about breathing that you hadn't noticed before. The more locked in we are with our breath, the more we notice about breathing in general. Maybe we notice the cool air on the tip of our nose as we breathe in. Maybe we notice how the air seems warm as we breathe out. Maybe we're starting to notice our shoulders rise as we breathe in and fall as we breathe out. Just keep breathing and notice what breathing feels like to you. If your attention drifts, that's okay. Just gently guide it back. Sort of like you're repositioning your car in your lane. Get your mind back on your breath. Back to noticing the sensations of breathing in and the sensations of breathing out. Back to enjoying breathing in and enjoying breathing out. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath. See if you can follow your breath for the full inhale and the full exhale. You are meditating. How wonderful that you have taken time out of your day to train your mind in being more peaceful. It's such a good use of your time. Just keep breathing in and out and notice the sensations of your breath. We might find that after focusing on our breath single-pointedly, that we feel a little bit more relaxed. We're enjoying ourselves, a little more calm, a little more peaceful, a little lighter. Whatever it is, whatever your experience is, when you notice it, just sit with that experience. Sit in that peaceful place you've created for yourself. However small or large it feels. Become familiar with the idea, the truth, that you can be peaceful just by focusing on your breath. You have found joy in breathing. And joy leads to natural effort. If you can find even a sliver of enjoyment in this breathing meditation, you will naturally want to pursue it, to do it more, to get better at it. Joy brings natural effort. And just like Aubrey with the napkin, you might be starting to notice things about breathing that you hadn't noticed before. Particularly, you are noticing that focusing on your breath is enjoyable. Prior to this, you probably never thought about your breath as being enjoyable. It was probably some neutral or dull. You just never thought about it. It never occurred to you. But, just like Aubrey, our enjoyment of our breathing is flexible. It is dependent on our concentration, on us, on our mind. If we can bring a focused, peaceful, interested, intrigued mind to even breathing, we will find the subtle joys in it. The same is true for all things. Just sit with that for a little while. Okay, great job. You can open your eyes. Return to not focusing on your breathing. Okay, so that was like I mentioned briefly, meditation is about familiarizing yourself with something. It's a learning tool. Here, we're trying to familiarize ourselves with the idea that, one, we can relax by breathing. Two, like recognizing that we might not have I'm trying to keep my hand on the screen. Like we might not have even thought that was possible until now, right? Now we have wisdom. We understand. Okay? We understand that, but whereas before we thought maybe the breath could not possibly bring us joy. Now we're seeing, okay, well, maybe it can. So there's flexibility here. Okay? That's wisdom, flexibility. How did that go? Cool? Yay, nay? Hooray? I can't think of any more rhyming words. Hopefully you found that to be somewhat enjoyable or thought-provoking. Any and all of that is good to get us interested, right? Interested in the power of our own mind and using meditation to kind of unlock that. That in of itself is a level of fascination. It will result in joy, right? Who would have thought exploring our own mind is, in fact, exploring our own mind normally is like painful, right? We don't want to do that at all, okay? But there's flexibility. So we can find that exploring our mind and how it works can be really quite enjoyable. I'm excited about applying this to doing things tomorrow. Yeah, so that's a really good like little homework thing for you, you know? See if it's sort of like what we were doing, like Ken said, with the toothbrush. Like pick an activity, right? And try to do like Aubrey, okay? We're focusing on this activity exclusively, and when something happens that distracts us, not right now, come back. Not right now, come back. Not right now, come back. Not never, just not right now. All right? See how that goes. See if you find any sort of interesting new enjoyment in this activity, even just slightly. All right? Good. So if you did enjoy this, thank you for, first of all, thank you for coming. I wouldn't be here without you guys. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here and to be interested in learning about this stuff. And if you did enjoy it, a couple things that would be, could be helpful to me. Just subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really does nothing other than tell YouTube that people are interested in this, which is very helpful for me for getting like visibility. And come back next week, bring a friend. And if you're like really into this, you're sold, you want to like really get into meditating, I do private instruction. I do corporate events. If you think your workplace would benefit from something like this. So, if any of that sounds interesting to you, you can either email me, keith@meditationbreaks.com, or that information and all the sign up stuff is on my website, meditationbreaks.com. Okay. All right. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys, and enjoy your week being like a child at play. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys.